Hey everyone. Yes, I'm aware that I've worn this shirt in like the last 3 or 4 videos. I swear I'm not doing it on purpose, it just keeps happening. I have other shirts, you can see them in some of my other videos. It just keeps lining up that way for some reason. Anyway, in honor of the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, today I'm going to be updating my ranking of the franchise. Starting off at rock bottom, my number 9 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation. Oh boy! This is honestly one of the worst horror movies I've ever seen. In fact, let me check. It's number 5. This is the 5th worst horror movie I've ever seen. My only unironic positive is Toni Perinsky's performance. She's pretty great. Beyond that, the only enjoyment you can get out of this is laughing at how incompetent it is. Actually, no, I take that back. This sound Matthew McConaughey makes when he jumps off the roof is absolutely hilarious. I'm sorry, can we hear that again? Almost makes the rest of the movie worth it. And yeah, Matthew McConaughey's performance can be fun at times, but he keeps taking it too far. Like, yeah, this is the kind of performance where he needs to take it up to 11. The problem is he's not stopping at 11, he's taking it up to like 15.
Pop goes the weasel.
And it's too much. The rest of the acting is mediocre at best, and the kills are fucking lame. This is one of 2 movies in the franchise that has no good kills. And when you're watching a movie like this, you expect some good kills. This movie tries for that same get-under-your-nails creepiness and uneasiness that the original excelled at, but instead it's just exploitative and shameless, and not in the fun Emmy Rossum way. My score is 1 out of 5. Moving up out of the bedrock to the gutter, I'm sure that metaphor made sense. My number 8 is Texas Chainsaw 3D. This movie kind of reminds me of Jason Goes to Hell, because the opening scene is fantastic. We get cameos from veterans of the franchise, and what happens feels like a natural progression of the events of the first movie.
All right, just stay back now, Bird. I got you.
We're here to back you up.
Yeah, you can start by getting everybody back in their cars and hightailing it out of here.
Yeah, that ain't gonna happen. Let's go, boys. Let's see some bitches.
Hey, I got control of this. He's bringing the boy out, okay?
What are we doing there, Sheriff?
Get his ass out! Look, he's bringing his son out here.
Bring him out.
Let him up, no.
About your delivery.
No! Motherfucker!
And there are some solid kills to boot. Once the opening scene ends, things start to fall apart. The original took place in 1973, and this one jumps forward to present day, which at the time was 2013. Meaning it jumped ahead 40 years, and the baby we saw in the opening scene has grown up to be Alexandra Daddario? She's supposed to be 40, and yet she is written and portrayed as a woman in her 20s. TV Tropes was right. Writers cannot do math. And even beyond that, these are some of the dumbest characters I've ever seen in a horror movie. Friendly Neighborhood Uncle Pete hasn't released his video on this movie yet, but when he does, I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of 1 nails and not a lot of 4 nails. Anyway, these characters pick up a hitchhiker after hitting him with their van, and bring him to this new mansion that Heather recently inherited and they've never seen before. And then they leave him alone there while they go to get supplies or some shit. Naturally, he immediately starts robbing them. Seems like everyone has a hand on the idiot ball. And then there's Leatherface. What the fuck were they thinking? They actually thought it would be a good idea to try to rebrand him as an anti-hero? Why? What's wrong with just having two sets of villains who are against each other? Villain versus villain conflict can be really cool when it's done right. Like I said earlier, there are a few solid kills in this movie, but there are also some bad ones, and the CGI is just awful. My score is 1.5 out of 5. Number 7 is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning. This is the goriest film in the franchise, and I can at least appreciate that they used mostly, if not all, practical effects for it.
Get that thing going! Let's go, Tommy! Come on! Crank it up! Let's go! Look at it, asshole! Beautiful bastard, you! You fucking asshole! You son of a bitch! Come into my fucking house!
I like Jordan Brewster in this movie. Most of the acting is pretty meh, but she's pretty good. Arlie Ermey is definitely the best part of the movie. He's great, and his character gets a little bit of backstory.
I think we've got a problem, Sheriff. Shit, I just killed the whole fucking sheriff's department.
Leatherface looks pretty cool. Unfortunately, this movie suffers from the same problems as a lot of other prequels. Because we've seen some of these characters in the original, we know they're going to survive no matter how many times Arlie Ermey's head gets bashed against the front porch. Like the remake, but to a greater extent, this movie focuses more on the gore than the get-under-your-nails uneasiness from the original, and the result is just another ultra-violent slasher flick from the early 2000s, and those things are a dime a dozen. And since it's not very scary, it's kind of boring and forgettable. And this movie doesn't really do a very good job of telling Leatherface's origin story. We see him as a baby, and then we skip ahead to him as an adult, and he's already like 95% of the way there. The score is 2 out of 5. Number 6 is Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. This is the other most forgettable one in the franchise. Ken Foree and Viggo Mortensen are both really good.
Oh, sweetheart. See what you got.
Fuck is wrong with you? Why don't you leave us alone?
You're hungry.
You ever heard of pizza?
I like liver.
And onions. And pig.
I like this version of Leatherface. He's played seriously and he's pretty menacing, but he's still the same man-child we all know, love, and fear. There's a scene where he's playing like an electronic spelling game, and anytime it's a person, he types in food, because he's been brought up to only see other people as food, unless they're part of the family.
Don't try again.
It's kind of sad and also kind of adorable and probably the best part of the movie. Oh, and he has the most badass chainsaw ever. And no one gets killed by it. Chekhov's gun remains unfired. If nothing else, this movie is at least good from a technical standpoint. Cinematography, editing, art design, set design, all that is at least decent. Like The Beginning, this movie is just kind of forgettable. Not necessarily for the same reasons. Kate Hodge and William Butler are bad, their characters are bland, which is not good, because, well, she's the final girl and he's her boyfriend, so they're the ones we're supposed to care about. Like The Next Generation, the kills are toned down and lame, and this movie also has one of the worst car crashes I've ever seen in a movie. Like, I'm pretty sure the two cars are never actually in the same shot together. My score is 2.1 out of 5. Number 5 is Leatherface. Look, if nothing else, this movie at least does a better job of telling Leatherface's origin story than The Beginning did. It's not saying much, it's a pretty low bar to clear, but it's something. This movie actually lets us see how he becomes the mentally stunted, chainsaw-wielding, cannibalistic man-child we all know, love, and fear. On that note, this movie actually does a decent job with the mystery of who becomes Leatherface, because we have the obvious candidate in Bud, who is big and strong and doesn't really talk a lot. And then there's Ike, a violent douchebag who mentions having family in Texas. And then there's Jackson, who seems like a fairly nice guy, but is also kind of off. And yeah, I know the reveal doesn't work for a lot of people, and I agree they could have done it better, but it's not terrible. Once Sam Strike comes out all lumbering over carrying the chainsaw, he does a great job of moving and behaving like the original Leatherface. And there are also some pretty great kills here, especially Bud fucking curb-stomping Ike against a rock. On the other hand, this movie doesn't really feel like a Texas Chainsaw movie. It's a well-made movie, but it doesn't quite feel the same.
I wish I was somebody else.
Sorry, y'all. That was my fault.
Think it's time y'all clear out, pay up, and go.
We ain't got no money. Fuck, I love Texas.
Everybody go ahead and put your keys and cash on the edge of the table. Larry, get a bag. Put your cash on the table, man! Larry! Put your money on the table.
Are y'all deaf? Get your fucking money out now!
I mean, you have two French directors and a mostly English cast making a movie in Bulgaria. We've come a long way from the homespun original. And it's not very scary. There are some moments where it kind of gets the uneasiness right, but not a lot of good scares. And there's a sex scene between Ike and Clarice, which would have been fine on its own. And we get to see some of the burn scars on her body because she's a pyro. But then they kind of take it a step too far. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. If not, yeah, no, it's just disturbing. It's disturbing and not in a good way. The score is 2.5 out of 5. Number 4 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. Where do I even start with this movie? I had fun. I had fun watching this movie. There was a Chainsaw Massacre in Texas, so truth in advertising. Sarah Yarkin and Elsie Fisher are both really good, but their characters are the only ones who get any real development. And if I'm being honest, it took me about a half an hour to realize who Elsie Fisher was because I'm used to seeing her as a blonde. Mark Burnham does a really good job as Leatherface, who is like in his 60s in this one. Owen Foer, I hope I said that right, is pretty good as Sally, but she doesn't feel like a necessary part of this movie. You could remove her from it and not much would change. They could have done something interesting with her, but they just didn't. The writing is decent, the kills are great, and the cinematography and editing are on point, so that's something. My score is 3 out of 5. Number 3 is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003. This movie does a good job of balancing nods to the original with new elements. It has awesome kills with great practical effects. For anyone who loves the run of ultra-violent horror movies we got in like the early to mid-2000s, you got this movie to thank for it. because this one came out before Saw. But yeah, after a slew of Scream-inspired meta-horror movies with tame PG-13 kills aimed at teenagers, this is pretty much the first modern horror movie to have serious gory kills. Unlike most of the franchise, this movie actually has a good amount of scary moments. I mean, it still pales in comparison to the original, but it's something. And of all the movies that tried to replicate the under-the-nails uneasiness of the original, I think this one does the best job of it. Again, still falls short, but it comes the closest. Much like the beginning, Arlie Ermy is the best part of this movie. He's just fantastic.
Morgan, what's going on? You okay?
You girls stay in the dirt till I tell you different. You motherfucker! Get on the fucking floor! I said get on the floor!
What the hell are you doing?
What are you gonna do? Shoot me?
Morgan, please, just please put the gun down, okay? Please don't do it. Oh my God, Morgan.
You lying fuck! You could kill me right now. Get out of here scot-free, couldn't you?
Morgan, please, just put it down.
He shoots me! You're accomplice to murder!
Morgan, please.
You too?
Please, come on.
Just as guilty as him.
Yeah! Fucking shoot him! You put the gun down. Morgan, shoot him! Don't fucking do it, please!
You don't have the fucking balls, do you?
Don't shoot him! Morgan! Shoot him!
Pull the fucking trigger! Fuck you! Well. Looky here.
Oh my God,
We
Morgan.
got ourselves a killer.
I also really like this version of Leatherface. He's one of the more openly evil versions of the character, but it works, and he looks great. Oh, and this version of the family has one of the coolest houses in any horror movie ever. The heroes are a mixed bag. Some of them are good, some of them kind of suck. This is a well-made movie, but it also feels like an unnecessary remake. It doesn't do a whole lot to justify its own existence. The pacing could be better, and the writing is kind of uneven. The score is 3.1 out of 5. Number 2 is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. This movie is so different from the original that it's almost hard to believe they were directed by the same person. Almost. This movie takes the dark humor that was just under the surface of the original and that a lot of people didn't notice and puts it front and center, and it fucking works, man. This movie is pretty damn funny. The acting is pretty solid across the board. Caroline Williams is a badass, and Dennis Hopper is just delightfully off-kilter. James Seadow reprises his role as the old man / cook from the original, now known as Drayton Sawyer, and he's pretty great.
Okay, everybody, hush up. Listen up, y'all. The Texas OU Chili Cook-Off champion is from Norman, Oklahoma. No. Waco, Texas. Tulsa? Nope. Austin? He's Dallas's favorite caterer, and I think he's kind of cute. The last Roundup Rolling Grill chef, Drayton Sawyer! This year, Drayton, you've got to tell the secret of that fabulously tasty chili.
No secret. It's the meat. Don't skimp on the meat. I got a real good eye for prime meat. Runs in the family. Whoop. It's one of those hard-shelled peppercorns.
Bill Johnson gives one of my favorite portrayals of Leatherface. He really shows us a side of the character that we hadn't seen before and we really haven't seen since. That being said, Bill fucking Moseley absolutely steals the show as Chop Top. Apparently, after seeing the original, he made a parody called The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where he played the hitchhiker, and Tobe Hooper saw it, loved it, and cast him in the sequel as the hitchhiker's twin brother of all people. Art imitates life, imitates art, imitates life, whatever. I absolutely love the set design. The abandoned theme park that the finale takes place in is just fantastic. My only problems with this movie are that because of the dark comedy, there aren't as many scary moments. I don't mind, because I love the dark comedy, I'm just saying. And the movie does drag a little in the second act. My score is 3.5 out of 5. Finally, my number 1 is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This movie is a classic for a reason. The acting holds up surprisingly well. Considering this movie's reputation, this movie's kills are not overt. They show you just enough to give you a good idea of what's happening, and then they leave the rest to your imagination. And unlike the other movies with tame kills, it actually works here. Unlike some other movies in the franchise that have tame kills, it actually works here. Because they show you just enough and then leave the rest to your imagination. This movie is less of a straight-up slasher and more of an art house film, and the pacing is perfect for a slow burn. The villains aren't motivated by normal things like sex or money. They're just sadistic cannibals who like to play with their food.
You can make him stop doing it.
Shut your mouth. Can't be helped, young lady.
Please. Shut up. Let them kill me.
Don't mind. You like this, Dave?
Crazy! You gotta make us stop! Please!
You nothing. He's just a cook. Shut up, you bitch hog. You Leatherface do all the work. He don't like it, ain't that right? You're just a cook. Shut your mouth. You don't understand nothing. I understand you ain't nothing. Me and him do all the work. I just can't take no pleasure in killing.
This movie does an outstanding job of creating the sense of dread and uneasiness that I've been talking about. It gets under your nails, under your skin, in the best way possible. The score is 5 out of 5. Hey everyone, what's your ranking? Let me know in the comments. If you don't like the video, tell me why, then subscribe so the next time I upload a video you can tell me why that one sucks too. Just a quick shout out, I'm also a writer. I have short stories on Wattpad and Archive of Our Own, so if that's something that interests you, I'll drop the links in the description. I'll take any feedback I can get. That's all for now. Stay safe in these crazy times.